Hi everybody, and welcome back to Catering. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 2 in the text, which is basically about starting up your own catering operation. Now, I'm sure not all of you want to start your own catering operation today, but if you go into the hospitality business, more than likely you're going to have to cater one day. A little bit about my own history. The first restaurant I bought was this little bitty place out in the middle of nowhere in Parker City, Indiana. And I was still in culinary school and thought I knew everything, like I guess I do now. And started this little business, and the locals hated us. It was terrible. Everything we could do wrong, we probably did wrong. We made it non-smoking way before non-smoking was even a thing. I mean, this is 20 years ago. And so we alienated the local populace, probably said a few things we shouldn't have. And but we still had to make a living. We still had a mortgage, we still had employees to pay, so we started catering. And catering was a way for us to at least cover the bills while we worked on damage control and did special events and things like that. And that's kind of how I got into catering. It was sheer necessity. As the years went on, I found that I like catering better than running a regular restaurant, and I like catering better than most other aspects of the hospitality business because of the different things you could do, working with different people all the time. It was just always different. There was a certain amount of excitement and danger and that you get with catering you don't get with the other things. So I think everybody is going to cater one day, or should at least be able to. So that's what we're going to talk about. And a lot of the things that go into opening a catering business are a lot like any other business. You've got to have a certain amount of commitment. And when I say a certain amount, I mean a lot of commitment. The food business is hard. Hospitality in general is a tough, killer business. You're either born to do this or you're not. You either love it or you hate it. It's kind of like making a market, which we're going to talk about in a bit. You can't go in and say, you're going to like my food and you're going to come to my business. You are either born to it and it's something that flows or it isn't. So you got to have commitment. I can tell you the things that I missed in my personal life, birthdays, my own birthdays, special events. I always hated doing parties around the holidays because you're spending time with other people making money rather than being home with your own family. So commitment in this business is tough. Another thing you have to have is a lot of capital, money in the bank. One of those things that we learned very hard when we started out was we didn't have enough money put back. And so we had to pull a lot of money from savings. I think one of the reasons why my kid is following me around going to school now is because we spent our college money that I had set back 20-some years ago. Undercapitalization is the killer for most restaurants. It takes a good while to get your clientele built up. Now, after a couple years, were we breaking even? Sure. But we weren't making the profit we wanted to make, but we were paying all of our bills. We could have made even more with enough time, but after so long, you realize it's not really the path you want to take. So you can never have too much money when you do this. Third to think about is location. Now, one of the benefits to catering is location can be anywhere. If you're going to do off-premise catering, if you remember off-premise catering, it means we're going to go to somebody else's house, somebody else's business, somebody else's venue to do the work. If we're doing an on-premise catering, it means people have to come to us. And that's going to really lead into a bigger discussion on where you should be located. Where is your market? Who is your market? We hear the words destination place. And a destination place is kind of one of these out-of-the-way area stops where people will drive a long distance to get to. You've got to be really good. You've got to have really great food, really great service, really something special to be a destination. So when you pick location, it's really important to be where your people are. Once again, I go back to my early experience. I had a place that was 3 blocks off the highway. 3 blocks off the major highway. On either side of us, about 10 miles, there was a major city. So you had major city 10 miles to the right, 10 miles to the left, a little tiny town that we were in, smaller than Melbourne, little hole-in-the-wall town. Right up on the highway, there was a little tiny ice cream dairy bar restaurant that made $1 million a year. The guy was open 4 months, 5 months out of the year at tops, would go down to Florida and spend all of his money the rest of the year. Made a fortune. 3 blocks off the highway, we couldn't get people to turn and come to us. So when they say that location, it's everything, they mean it. It's all about where you're at. So we've got commitment, capital, location, and the last one is knowledge. And knowledge obviously is crucial for any type of business. It's even a little bit more important in our line of work in hospitality because we encompass so many different things. We have to have people who are knowledgeable about food, obviously, and that could be you, it could be the people you hire. You should know enough about the food business to know what's good and what isn't good, although a lot of that's, people's own likes and dislikes. But it's amazing the number of people I know who've gotten in the food business who know nothing about food and can't judge good food from bad food at all. But that's really important. A general business knowledge, accounting, for example. Now, I'm not saying everybody should be their own accountant. You shouldn't be your own accountant. You should go and you should have someone else who knows what they're doing do your taxes. Perfect example from a business I had. The roof was going bad when I bought the business, so I went and had the whole roof replaced. And I can tell you it cost me $3,000. I'll never forget that. So I paid $3,000. We go down through about a year of business and go down my taxes done. And the accountant said, well, why did you pay $3,000 to have this roof replaced? I said, well, it was bad. It was falling in. He said, well, if you had repaired half of it and then 6 months later repaired the other half of it, you could have written it off all this year. In other words, I could have taken $3,000 off my taxes. But because I did it all at one time, I had to amortize it or deduct it out over a 13-year period. So basically, I could only take off $250 a year and then $250 next year, and so on. I wish I'd had an accountant at the very beginning because it would have saved me quite a bit of money. Your own lawyer, for example. Everybody thinks they know the law, but having a small amount of knowledge of that can be somewhat dangerous. But you have to have a good lawyer on the team. Once again, I bought a business that I really didn't vet the owners that well. I looked at their profit and loss statement, saw they were making X amount of money, bought the business. Turns out that most of the money they were making was coming from a concessions operation that they had on the side and had nothing to do with the part that I just bought. So basically the business I bought was worth about 25% of what I originally thought it was. So having a good attorney to look over the paperwork would have been a good part. As I said, I used to be a little bit more stubborn and pig-headed than I am now. So a little bit of knowledge about that is okay, but also knowing when to get an expert. Also having a knowledge of equipment. If you're around the new campus, we just put in a brand new kitchen. We spent about $250,000 on that, and it's a major job to put together a facility that all fits together and works properly. I mean, we got really lucky, I think, on this one. Well, I spent a lot of time designing it, but everything seems to work and it all seems to fit. A catering operation becomes even more special because you have specialized equipment for holding, just transporting equipment to think about. It's not just like a regular restaurant where the food's just always going to sit there. So, commitment, capital, location, and knowledge. Other things to think about: a business plan. And a business plan is basically the framework for how you plan to operate. Now, if you want to go to the bank and you want to get a loan, you're going to have a business plan. They're going to want to see what your marketing is going to be like, who your competition is going to be, what your future plans are, the general operation of the business, all in a nutshell. Back in 20-some years ago, you can basically go to a bank and say, I'm going to open up a restaurant, can I have some money? And they'd say, sure. You can't do that today because of the number of catering operations and restaurants that go under. You've really got to have a plan on what you're going to do. So another part of a good business plan is a mission statement. And a mission statement is basically who you are on paper, who you are and what you're going to do. Now that could be strictly from a business standpoint, or you may have a mission plan that has a personal message attached to it. We have an operation back in Bentonville that was a coffee house slash bakery slash ice cream type operation. And their basic reason for being in business was so they could raise money and send to some third world countries and feed poor and starving children. And that was why they were in business, and that was part of their mission statement. Sadly, they went out of business because they had a really crappy product, and they wouldn't listen to anybody. But they had a good goal, and they had a good reason for being in business. And so that was their mission statement. Other people, it's about, it can be about making money. It can be about whatever, but a mission statement basically is what you're going to put in place and stick by and kind of guide you through your operation. Other things to think about on that business plan is what type of a business you're going to be. Are you going to be a sole proprietorship? In other words, just one person, you own it, you run the business through your own taxes. You might have a partnership. I was in a partnership before, which was terrible because now instead of one person just making the decision, you've got two people who have to fight over things. Not necessarily good. You might want to incorporate, become a corporation. And there are several different types there. You might be what we call a subchapter S corporation or a simple corporation, or a limited liability corporation or LLC, or a full-blown corporation. The reason we incorporate is because it protects us individually. So back in the day, I had Blue Moose Ventures Inc. and Blue Moose, M-O-U-S-S-E, like the chocolate mousse. I was a president of Blue Moose Ventures Inc. My wife was vice president. My partner was the treasurer. His wife was secretary, and so on. If we would have, heaven forbid, poisoned somebody could have come back and sued Blue Moose Ventures Inc. and taken the assets from the corporation, but they couldn't sue me. And since the corporation didn't really have many assets, it wouldn't really hurt the corporation. It's a great thing to do in business. It does cost a little more because when you get your taxes done, you have to get a corporate tax filing done, and that usually costs extra. I think we used to pay $1,000 for a corporate tax return. But anybody can put a corporation together and fill out a little paperwork, send it to the state, and basically create your own person. According to the Supreme Court, basically corporations are people, so you can kind of be a mad scientist and create your own. Once you get that, you're going to have to deal with other things. Licensing, any types of certificates that you have to get for your area. Insurance is huge. People don't really think about anything outside of their auto insurance sometimes. But when it comes to a business like this, you have to have not only auto insurance for your company's vehicles, but you have to have liability insurance. What if somebody falls on the premises? What if you spill something on somebody when you're doing a catering? What if you have an accident while you're taking things to another party? Other types of insurance you might have is a business continuation insurance. Say your off-premise catering operation burns down. There's a fire and it burns. Well, yeah, you might have fire insurance, property insurance for the building and structure, but how are you going to make money while your business is down? So you can have business continuation insurance. It's going to go and help put money in your pocket while you're getting your business set back up. So those are some of the things you need just to get the shell of the business up. In part 2 of the video, I'm going to talk about how you get business, marketing, and such. All right? See you in a bit.